It was supposed to be just another relaxed morning chat on Lorraine, the kind of light-hearted television Britain has come to love over the years, but what unfolded on that crisp February morning in 2026 became one of the most jaw-dropping moments in daytime TV history when Graham Norton, the beloved host of his own wildly successful chat show and a national treasure known for his quick wit and sparkling interviews, found himself in the middle of a fiery exchange that escalated so dramatically he was asked to leave the set mid-segment, leaving Lorraine Kelly visibly shaken and the studio audience stunned into silence as the cameras kept rolling, capturing every tenth second of the confrontation that no one saw coming, and that sent shockwaves across social media within minutes of the broadcast ending abruptly, with producers scrambling to fill the remaining airtime while viewers at home flooded the internet with clips and theories about what exactly had gone so terribly wrong between two of television's most adored personalities who had always seemed to share a warm professional respect for one another until this explosive clash revealed underlying tensions that had apparently been simmering beneath the surface for quite some time, according to insiders who later spoke anonymously about the build-up to the disastrous appearance that changed everything for Graham Norton's public image and forced Lorraine to address the incident in a carefully worded statement released hours later, emphasizing the importance of respectful dialogue on her show while carefully avoiding direct blame but clearly implying that the guest had crossed a line that could not be ignored in front of millions of loyal morning viewers who tune in daily expecting uplifting conversations rather than heated arguments that spiral out of control and leave everyone feeling uncomfortable and divided. As the full story began to emerge through leaked rehearsal notes and eyewitness accounts from the production team describing how Graham arrived at the studios that day in his usual cheerful demeanor, cracking jokes with the crew and signing autographs for fans gathered outside the ITV building in London. But once the red light went on and Lorraine welcomed him with her signature warm smile, the atmosphere shifted noticeably when she decided to steer the conversation away from the light topics they had agreed upon in advance, such as his upcoming book tour and funny behind-the-scenes anecdotes from the Graham Norton show, and instead pressed him on more controversial subjects, including his outspoken views about certain celebrity feuds and his recent comments on the state of British television, which she seemed to interpret as a subtle criticism of her own long-running program, prompting Graham to respond with his trademark sharp humor that quickly turned sarcastic and defensive as the exchange grew more intense, with both hosts talking over each other in ways that made the audience gasp audibly and producers in the gallery frantically signaling for a commercial break that came too late to prevent the moment when Lorraine finally stood up and calmly but firmly told Graham that perhaps it would be best if he stepped off the set for the sake of the show, continuing smoothly, which he did after a brief stunned pause, exchanging one last pointed remark that was bleeped out in the edited replay later that evening, leaving the entire country talking about the incident for days afterward as clips went viral on every platform and debates raged about whether Lorraine had overstepped her role as host or if Graham had simply failed to read the room in a way that highlighted the fragile nature of live television, where one wrong word can turn a friendly interview into a career-altering showdown that no amount of public relations spin could fully repair. In the immediate aftermath, as Graham later issued his own statement expressing regret for letting the conversation get away from him while praising Lorraine's professionalism and hoping that their mutual respect would remain intact despite the awkwardness that had unfolded so publicly and unexpectedly on that fateful morning when the sparks flew higher than anyone could have anticipated, turning what should have been a routine promotion segment into television legend that will be replayed and analyzed for years to come by fans and critics alike, who still wonder exactly what words were said in those heated final moments before the credits rolled and the screen faded to black, leaving a lingering sense of disbelief hanging over the entire entertainment industry. The build-up to this dramatic confrontation had actually started weeks earlier when Graham Norton's team confirmed his appearance on Lorraine as part of a promotional push for his latest series of celebrity interviews and a charity project he was championing that involved raising awareness for mental health initiatives in the arts community, something Lorraine had always supported enthusiastically in her own programming. But according to sources close to the production, the pre-interview briefing took an unexpected turn when Lorraine's producers suggested incorporating elaborating some tougher questions about the competitive landscape of daytime and late-night television formats, which Graham apparently viewed as unnecessary since he had prepared a series of humorous stories and celebrity impressions that he thought would entertain the audience instead of stirring up any controversy. Yet Lorraine, who is known for her no-nonsense approach to journalism and her ability to balance empathy with directness, decided at the last minute to include a segment discussing recent ratings battles and guest booking strategies that had been making headlines in the tabloids, particularly those involving high-profile stars who had appeared on both shows over the years, which inadvertently touched a nerve for Graham, who felt it implied his own program was somehow less authentic or more sensationalized than Lorraine's wholesome morning vibe, prompting him to push back politely at first with witty one-liners that drew laughs from the crowd, but soon escalated when Lorraine followed up by asking him point-blank about a rumored rift between their respective production teams over a shared guest booking that had fallen through months prior, an accusation Graham denied vehemently while accusing the Lorraine show of being overly cautious and risk-averse in its content choices, which struck many viewers as a surprising jab coming from someone as generally affable as Graham Norton, whose reputation for kindness and inclusivity had never been questioned before this moment. And as the tension mounted, Lorraine tried to steer the discussion back to safer ground by referencing their long history of mutual appearances and collaborations, including guest spots on each other's programs, but Graham seemed unable to let go of the perceived slight and continued to defend his creative vision with increasingly passionate remarks that bordered on frustration, causing the studio lights to feel hotter and the atmosphere thicker, until finally, after a particularly sharp exchange about the ethics of celebrity interviews in the modern media age, Lorraine, who had remained composed throughout the entire ordeal, leaned forward and stated in a measured tone that while she valued open conversation, there were boundaries that needed to be respected on live television, and that continuing in this vein would not serve the viewers or the spirit of her show, leading directly to the decision to politely but decisively ask Graham to conclude his segment early and exit the set, which he did with a mixture of dignity and visible disappointment, shaking hands briefly before walking off stage as the audience sat in stunned silence, and Lorraine seamlessly transitioned to the next part of the program without missing a beat, though her facial expression betrayed the emotional toll of the unexpected confrontation that had just played out in real time for the nation to witness, leaving social media exploding with divided opinions, some praising Lorraine for maintaining control and professionalism while others accused her of ambushing a guest who had come in good faith, and others still calling for both parties to address the underlying issues publicly in order to clear the air and prevent similar incidents from damaging the reputations of two icons who had contributed so much to British broadcasting over decades, with Graham later reflecting in a radio interview that the experience had taught him valuable lessons about preparation and adaptability in live environments, while Lorraine chose to focus her follow-up comments on the broader importance of constructive dialogue in media without assigning fault to any individual, which only fueled further speculation about what truly transpired behind the scenes and whether this fiery exchange represented a one-off clash of styles or a deeper philosophical difference between the playful irreverence of late-night television and the more grounded, approachable tone of daytime programming that had finally come to a head in such a public and unforgettable manner on that ordinary Tuesday morning when television history was quietly rewritten in the most unexpected way possible. Following the shocking on-air incident, social media platforms lit up immediately with hashtags like #GrahamOnLorraine and #LorraineDrama trending worldwide as thousands of viewers shared their reactions, ranging from disbelief and support for Graham to admiration for Lorraine's handling of the situation, and calls for an official apology from ITV executives, who quickly issued a brief statement confirming that the segment had concluded earlier than planned due to creative differences, but emphasizing that both hosts remain valued contributors to the network's lineup and that no further action would be taken beyond the natural reflection that follows any lively debate on air, which did little to quell the storm of speculation as former colleagues from both shows began leaking details about the rehearsal tensions and the specific questions that had been flagged as potentially provocative, including one about Graham's famous red chair and whether it symbolized a more performative style of interviewing compared to low Rain's couch-based empathetic approach that had apparently been the catalyst for the initial spark of disagreement when Graham quipped that his format allowed for genuine surprises while hers sometimes felt scripted for emotional impact, a comment that Lorraine countered by highlighting the authenticity of her long-term relationships with guests and viewers alike, which escalated the back and forth into territory neither had anticipated entering on national television, leading to the moment when Graham stood up mid-sentence and announced that perhaps it was time for him to let the professionals handle the rest of the show, prompting Lorraine to respond with a calm but firm invitation for him to step aside gracefully rather than forcing a more awkward exit, which he accepted after a tense pause that felt like an eternity to those watching at home and in the studio, where the applause that followed was polite but noticeably subdued as the cameras cut away to a pre-recorded package, leaving many wondering if this would mark the end of any future cross-promotions between the two flagship programs or if it would instead become a turning point that strengthened their individual brands through the publicity generated by the controversy, with Graham's team reportedly fielding dozens of interview requests from other outlets eager to hear his side of the story, while Lorraine continued her regular schedule with her usual grace and humor, addressing the topic only briefly in a later episode by saying that television thrives on passion but must always prioritize respect, which resonated with her loyal audience and helped restore a sense of normalcy even as online forums continued to dissect every frame of the original clip frame by frame, analyzing facial expressions, body language and the exact wording used in those critical exchanges that had transformed a routine guest spot into a cultural phenomenon discussed in pubs, offices and family homes across the UK and beyond, where people who had never watched either show before suddenly found themselves invested in the outcome and debating the merits of different hosting styles in the ever-evolving world of British entertainment, with some experts predicting that this incident would lead to stricter guidelines for live interviews and better vetting of topics in advance to avoid similar fireworks, while others celebrated it as a refreshing example of unfiltered authenticity breaking through the polished veneer of morning television and reminding everyone that even the most seasoned professionals can find themselves caught in the heat of the moment when egos, opinions and live cameras collide in ways that no script can fully prepare for, ultimately leaving Graham, Norton and Lorraine Kelly as unwilling but enduring symbols of a day when daytime TV proved it could still deliver the kind of drama usually reserved for primetime soaps and reality competitions. Insiders from the Lorraine production team later revealed in anonymous interviews that the decision to ask Graham to leave the set was not made lightly and came only after several off-camera attempts to de-escalate the conversation during a quick break that had been called when the exchange first began heating up, with Lorraine herself pulling Graham aside for a private word urging him to keep things light as per their original agreement, but he apparently felt strongly enough about defending his broadcasting philosophy that he insisted on continuing the discussion once back on air, which led directly to the final confrontation that ended with his departure and a noticeable shift in the studio mood as the remaining guests and crew adjusted to the abrupt change in programming, while Lorraine demonstrated her decades of experience by seamlessly moving forward without letting the disruption overshadow the rest of the episode, which included heartwarming stories from other celebrities and viewer interactions that helped diffuse some of the lingering tension but could not erase the impact of what had just occurred, especially when the full unedited clip began circulating online later that day, showing the precise sequence of events from Graham's initial warm entrance and hug with Lorraine through the gradual build-up of pointed questions and witty retorts to the climactic moment when she stood and extended her hand in a gesture that was both conciliatory and conclusive, signaling the end of his time on the show in a way that was professional yet unmistakably firm, leaving Graham with little choice but to exit gracefully amid scattered applause and a few audible murmurs from the audience, who had come expecting laughs and celebrity gossip rather than this unexpected clash of titans that quickly became the talk of the town, with newspapers and online publications rushing to publish articles analyzing the body language and possible motivations behind the fiery exchange, including theories that it stemmed from long-standing friendly riv rivalries between their respective teams, or perhaps a simple misunderstanding amplified by the pressure of live broadcasting where every word is scrutinized and no retakes are possible, forcing both hosts to navigate the situation in real time, with Lorraine emerging as the composed mediator who prioritized her show's integrity and viewer experience above all else, while Graham's passionate defense of his own style resonated with fans who appreciated his willingness to speak his mind even at the risk of temporary discomfort, ultimately resulting in a wave of support from both camps as the entertainment world rallied around the idea that healthy debate, even when heated, can lead to greater understanding and growth for all involved, prompting Graham to appear on several radio shows in the following weeks where he laughed off the incident as a learning experience and expressed genuine admiration for Lorraine's poise under pressure, while she in turn invited him back for a future segment in a light-hearted social media post that hinted at reconciliation and the enduring friendship between two legends who had momentarily let their professional passions get the better of them on the memorable morning when television reminded everyone just how unpredictable and captivating live moments can truly be when sparks fly between icons who share a deep respect for the craft but occasionally differ in their approach to delivering it to the public. The aftermath of Graham Norton's unexpected exit from Lorraine Kelly's show extended far beyond the initial broadcast as industry insiders and fans alike began to speculate about the long-term effects on both careers, with some predicting a temporary dip in viewership for the Graham Norton show due to the negative publicity, while others argued that the controversy would actually boost interest in his bold interviewing style that had always set him apart from more conventional hosts. And similarly for Lorraine, the incident seemed to reinforce her reputation as a fair but firm presenter willing to stand her ground when necessary, which only endeared her further to her dedicated morning audience who tuned in the next day to see how she would handle the follow-up and were pleased to find her addressing the topic with her characteristic warmth and honesty without dwelling on details or assigning blame, which helped restore a sense of calm and allowed the show to continue its successful run uninterrupted, while Graham used the opportunity to reflect publicly on the importance of adaptability in media appearances and even joked about the event in subsequent episodes of his own program, turning what could have been a damaging moment into a humorous anecdote that showcased his resilience and self-deprecating charm, ultimately leading to a surge in positive engagement across platforms as clips of both the original confrontation and his later light-hearted references went viral, once again proving that in the world of entertainment even the most fiery exchanges can evolve into opportunities for connection and laughter when handled with grace and a willingness to move forward rather than linger on past disagreements, which is exactly what both Graham and Lorraine demonstrated in the weeks following the incident through subtle gestures of mutual support, including shout-outs on social media and joint appearances at charity events that signaled to the public that any tensions had been resolved amicably behind the scenes, leaving only the memory of the dramatic day as a testament to the passion these two broadcasters bring to their work and the way live television can still surprise and engage audiences in ways scripted content never could, with the entire saga serving as a reminder that behind the polished smiles and prepared segments there are real people with strong opinions and the courage to express them, even when it means stepping into uncomfortable territory on national airwaves, where every second counts and every word carries weight that can echo for years to come in the collective consciousness of viewers who witnessed the moment when two beloved figures clashed briefly but emerged stronger and more respected than ever before in the eyes of those who value authenticity above all else in their daily dose of celebrity conversation and morning inspiration. 6 years from now, when historians of British television look back on the evolution of daytime programming, they will undoubtedly reference the Graham Norton and Lorraine Kelly fiery exchange as a pivotal example of how even the most seasoned professionals can find themselves navigating uncharted waters during a live broadcast that starts in